Very good. Well, welcome everyone, and thank you for being here. This is the joint meeting of the Planning and Land Use committees for Central, Northwest, and Coastal. And could be our last virtual meeting, so everybody enjoy being at home tonight. You know, we're looking forward to seeing you guys at the next meeting in person. So Diana is out of town. She's traveling for the next couple of months. So I will be doing the duties of host here on the meeting. Hopefully we keep everything going and momentum on some of the issues we've been talking about. I'm going to, I don't see Pamela here, who's the rep for the CD15 and liaison to us. So I'm going to move on to the item number 3 on the agenda, and we'll take that one up. This is one that came to us later after our committee meeting, and so I didn't have a chance to present it on our meeting, but I was able to present it at the board meeting for Central last night, and we promoted it to a CIS in order to move it forward. And you know, we made an adjustment to not just talk about the downtown area, but also to connect to the connectivity plan, which is happening at the harbor, so that it could be a little more comprehensive and encompass the whole area, but also, you know, take into account definitely the downtown area. So let me see where. Let me see if I can put it up on the screen for you. Every time I look for this, it's not there. What? Okay, let me see. Okay, here it is. Can everybody see it?
Yes.
Okay, so this is what came out of the CD15 office, Tim McCosker's motion to create a parking study, which looks into the inventory that we have and evaluate current and future parking needs for the downtown area, mainly as a result of the loss of the 80 spaces that we had at the courthouse building, and which are not there anymore. So this is creating a, you know, a lack of parking in that area, and obviously we need more. So he is pushing for a parking study, and like I said, last night we took this at the board meeting in the Central Neighborhood Council, and we made an amendment just to include also making it part of the connectivity plan that looks into other areas of parking in the same neighborhood. So
point of order, Javier. This second paragraph, third line down, this situation is causing patrons to circle downtown blocks in search of parking. And can they mean to say blocks?
Yes, I'm sorry. That was created by the.
Just want to make sure that was corrected.
Yeah, no, we can correct them. This is just out of the CD15, so we did correct it.
Okay, cool.
So I'm hoping that, you know, maybe each neighborhood council can create CIS based on this and support it and, add your language to it. So this is just straight out of the document that they provided, as you can see. So we already took action on it. So I think you guys can take it back to your committees, and unless you want to vote on it now, but
I'm comfortable asking my group to vote on it now. If they are, unless they want more time to consider it.
there you are, Robin. Yes.
Hi.
Yeah, that would be great, Robin.
Anybody need more time or could? Okay, let's see. We, the motion is to do a for coastal
Okay.
Deputy Neighborhood Council.
Robin,
Doug,
personally, I would prefer that this go into a regular coastal committee meeting. Because I think we might want to take a look at the letter and consider some different wording.
Take a look at the letter and what?
Consider the wording.
make an amendment.
That's fine. I mean, it'll get to the same board meeting either way.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
that's
I
fine.
mean, it doesn't, but I would like to see some more discussion on this. And I also would like to hear from the new planning deputy from McOsker. There may be some additional things we want to comment on. I'm just going to throw out for everybody else. My one concern about this would this be something that DOT's parking section would be conducting, for example? Because if that's the case, then they're probably not going to engage with the port, for example. It could also result potentially in a situation where they just come back and say, well, obviously we need to bring back the parking meters. So there are questions I would like to ask. So,
Okay.
No problem. We'll wait.
alrighty, thanks.
James Campo, you had a comment, and at least you had one too.
Yes, I wondered how long, was this parking study gonna take years, or what do you think?
Well, hopefully the idea is that it's, something soon rather than later, but it's kind of hard to tell. I mean, that's probably why, we want to move it as fast as possible.
Thank you.
Elise?
Thank you, Javier. To Doug's point, I know the chamber, our board of directors passed a motion to support the parking study, but we're requesting that the community be allowed to weigh in and respond to the recommendations that come out of the study and also submit recommendations. One thing that we're very interested in looking at is extending, this is just the Chamber of Commerce discussing the extension of the parking meters. Right now they stop at 6 p.m. We'd like to take it to 8 or 9 p.m. because what we're finding is a lot of residents come in, take all that parking at 6 o'clock, park overnight, and there's not parking for the restaurants. So we're just adding to our letter, just engagement with the team that's doing the study.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Elise.
Could I, at least, do we know who this study will be conducted by?
I think LADOT is going to be a major
Okay.
part of it, but I know SWA is will be in discussions with LADOT, and there's a lot of underlying studies. I have a beautiful parking study that the port did a couple years ago that we gave to SWA. So there's a lot of documents already.
I remember the original
Yeah.
parking study from
Yeah, so it's really
10,
about the
15 years ago.
recommendations and implementation and outreach. So it'll
Yeah.
be interesting.
I would just like our committee to actually hear from, DOT and get an idea of what the process might entail so that we might say, oh, and by the way, you should also, you know what I'm saying? So that's my only thing. I would like to weigh in more on terms of learning and getting more details rather than just sort of giving a carte blanche of like, yeah, okay, it's cool, let's do it. So That's all.
All right. Yeah, I think Central also made a mention that we wanted to connect it to transportation study as well, that kind of overlaps the idea of parking. And so hopefully we can get some response on that. Very well. So I will let you guys take that back to your committee then, and we will hopefully provide a support CIS in favor of it. Okay, moving on. We're going to move on to item 4. And this is to do with the Pacific Avenue beautification plan that got started back in February.
Mhm.
And we did the initial walk in the neighborhood, and we did a survey, and then Lisa and Diana came up with a list of possible sources of how to provide solutions to the issues that we found out there. So I know talking to Elise, we were talking about maybe meeting with the CD15 office and going over that list of items that we came up with, and then be able to kind of report back on what those actually will be matched with. Elise, I don't know if you want to mention anything.
Well,
real
I
quick.
think what I'm going to do is tomorrow morning, Diana organized this beautifully. For those of you that participated in the walk, Diana consolidated all of your notes into a document. So I'm going to email this back to all of you to review. And then we've done a matrix, and you can't really see it, but I'll email this to you as well. And she broke out the different sections, and then we've got a matrix with the departments or potential funding sources that these particular, like example, failed curbs, what department would we reach out to? Removing billboards, removing newsstands. So this matrix is tied into everybody's notes. So I have asked to meet with Amanda Enriquez and Sergio Carrillo, who are on the walk with us, to review this, to look at potentially who these different issues could be assigned to. And then also we've been in discussions with, as a Chamber of Commerce, I'm going to clarify, with CD15 on the creation of a Jedi zone on Pacific Avenue, which is an economic development tool that comes with some benefits that could be available to small businesses on Pacific, facade improvements, help with permitting, and a couple of other benefits. And we can talk about that more. I know that under the Buscano administration, they applied for a Jedi zone on 6th Street, but the conditions, the conditions were too good, I'm going to say. It didn't fall into the criteria needed for a Jedi zone, but I think we can meet that criteria on Pacific Avenue. So that might, and more to follow on that. I think you've all had a presentation on the Jedi zone, but not sure, but we can have Amanda come in and talk about that at a future meeting, what it takes and what the benefits are. But Diana did a beautiful job, and I'll get all of this information out to those of you that participated tomorrow.
Thank you. James Campo?
Yeah, thank you. I had a question for Elise. Did you have you spoke or planned or done any powwow about land people, owners of buildings that leave them in these commercial zones, Pacific, Gaffey, that let graffiti, just tagging, stay on the buildings for years, or boarded up windows? It kind of that has something to do with beautification when you say along Pacific and.
Yes, and
Definitely.
we did note areas of graffiti on our walk. And we were very fortunate. Anthony Luna, who's a board member of ours, was on the walk with us, and he owns a property management company. So we're actually, there's property on Pacific that's been vacant for years. And the ownership, they're in their 80s or 90s, and nothing's happening with the property. And so Anthony is going to have us help us craft a letter to these owners, on how we can help them, improvements and how we can help them, with graffiti and other issues. We're reporting it, James. We're doing a lot of 311 reporting,
Yeah.
but some of these are absentee owners that just are, they're not managing the buildings anymore. They're vacant.
Could I just follow up one question?
Sure.
To Elisa? Yeah, I was looking a little bit into the ordinances and how the city can come in and actually, do the work, but they can't really force the owners to do anything. But I think there should be something different in these commercial zones that really represent our city,
Yeah.
as a whole, compared to, residential type.
You're
And
right, James. And
yeah.
we've asked for a presentation on the proactive code enforcement team. They were very active pre-COVID. They would go out, they would give basically a fix-it ticket to property owners saying your sign's broken, your building's tagged. I mean, just various issues like you mentioned. They would give the owner a certain amount of time to fix it. So we're trying to, figure out where that whole enforcement team went. Are they still operating? So more to follow on that. Hopefully we'll have that presentation soon.
Thank you. I'd love to get an email from you when you're doing that.
Okay.
Thank you.
And maybe they can come to this committee and talk about it. If you're all interested in hearing about it, we can ask them to do that.
Yeah, I think it also sets a tone for not only, what's San Pedro about, but, as property owners, it kind of degrades our city. And I think we should all look at that. Thank you.
Thanks, James. Alan, friends?
Thank you. I have another follow-up for Elise. You mentioned in your comments that you would provide copies of Diana's documents and matrix
Yes.
to people who participated.
Mhm.
I had conflict on that day, so I wasn't able to participate. Your way I can.
Okay. No, I can send it to you too, Alan. I was just going to send it to the people first just to see if we missed anything in their notes. I think Diana was did a comprehensive job. So I can go ahead and send it. Not a
Great.
problem.
Thank you.
Peggy?
Hey, I just wanted to let you know that Pamela's in the attendees.
Thank you. Thanks, Peggy. Okay. I'll give her a seat. Hi, Pamela.
Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello, I'm sorry. I had problems with
No
my
worries.
laptop, so I apologize.
No
So
problem.
I'm on my tablet. so I've never
We can hear you, so it all works perfect. Let me
Okay.
introduce you to the group. Pamela Thornton is our new representative from the CD15 office, and he will be our liaison with the office. So welcome.
Thank you for having me. So hello again. My name is Pamela Thornton, and I am the planning director for Council District 15, now known as the 1-5. So I started February 27th of this year. It's an honor to serve. I also live in the council district in the Harbor Gateway North area. I previously served on the Harbor Gateway North Neighborhood Council. I did participate in HANK, so if I look familiar, that you saw me at those meetings at Kaiser pre-pandemic. So I'm here to participate in your meetings, to offer any information that I can. And for the information that I may not have an update on, I will take notes and follow up with you. So I know there were a couple of things that there was an interest in. So first of all, the application for a homeless shelter is that on
9th Street.
Bond Street, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that has bubbled up into another conversation because now it's been found that Harbor Interfaith does not have what we call a certificate of occupancy for a homeless shelter. And that's because of the age of the building. So there are a number of homeless shelters that are in old buildings that existed before certificate of occupancies were required. As such, we're working on that now. So that situation came up because the councilman felt that if the new applicant was applying for a homeless shelter within 100-foot radius of an existing homeless shelter, that would give us leverage to do a stop work order or some other kind of ability to at least call the applicant in and really find out what the intent was. Because first they said it wasn't a homeless shelter, then they said it was going to be for veterans. So we've heard all kinds of different stories, but we haven't gotten to the bottom of it. So as of today, we're working both angles. So we're trying to make sure that Harbor Interfaith is not affected because they're deemed as a good operator. They are a homeless shelter or provide services to unhoused. They have a county grant and they're considered a service provider of record, right? So then on the other hand, the attorneys are saying, well, their documentation says that that location is an apartment. So it's kind of like a mixed match here. So are there any questions about that?
No, I think, it's good that you're giving us information because I was at the meeting where that was presented and I understand the conflicting information they're giving us. So it's kind of hard to understand what they're actually proposing. But, it seems like there's some things that might be not quite by the rules. So it's good that you guys are following up on that.
Right. And I think what it is that the rules, some people that were at the table didn't think of certain things, right? So they're trying to make sure that the unhoused are housed and doing it fast. And in doing so, there were gray areas that may be not thought of, missed, however you want to say it. And now it's coming back. And now Councilman McOsker is on it, So that's where we are.
Okay, great. The one other item, Pamela, that if you have any information, and probably I'm sure everybody's interested in, is regarding that billboard sign at the beginning of the freeway.
Yes, so that was my next item. So today, actually, the councilman did a motion and there's some legal activity regarding the billboard. So there is currently an unlawful detainer that we have filed, the city has filed, per Councilman McOsker's request, because the lease that they had is expired. So basically they're in trespass. And at this point, there was some communication once the unlawful detainer was filed. The attorney for the billboard company has now said that they will take down the content. The time frame was 2 months that they agreed to take it down voluntarily. That's been a month ago. So the councilman says he feels within the next 6 weeks or so, there should be another update. Either one, they complied, or if they didn't comply, to move forward with legal action.
Well,
Are there any questions about that?
let me see. James Campo, you have a question?
Yes, are they, Pamela, are they on the hook for removing the structure of the sign, or does that structure stay there?
That's a good question. I don't know about that part. That's a good question, and I can follow up and give Javier the response regarding that. So is there an issue not just with the content, but also the actual presence of the billboard being erected at that location?
You know, yeah,
Right. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think everybody wants to see it gone, but
well, it might be a nice mural, just as follow-up, sorry, for San Pedro, if the structure stayed, sorry.
Because the other part of the motion, from my understanding, is if in fact there is non-compliance and voluntary removal of that content facing, then we, the city, will take it down, and then the billboard company will be billed for the cost of that service.
that makes
Thank you.
sense. Adele, you have a question?
Yes, Pamela, do you know the company the contract is with? Is it like Outfront? Do you know the name?
I think it is Outfront, yes.
Okay, well,
It's
my understanding is that they own the physical
I'll double check
sign.
that, but I think that is the name.
Yeah, when you've been saying content, I think you're just talking about the ad that's
The
posted.
posting,
But
the
they own the structure and the lighting and the whole business. And like we're not allowed to take it down. They have to take it down. So by saying, I think it's the entire billboard. And I know Outfront, and that's what it is.
So
Yeah,
that's the actual question that I was asking. Right now, the request is for them to remove the marketing content, not to take out the billboard, the entire structure.
Is there some reason that we want to keep the billboard? It doesn't belong to us. I mean, the city would have to then rent the ad if you wanted to put up an ad.
No, that's not the issue, because there are locations. Remember, we used to have a billboard moratorium, and there were lots of billboard structures that had nothing up there, or they put like sort of like a plastic or heavy vinyl, and they were just blank. I don't know if you recall that.
My understanding is that we've given them notice that we want the billboard removed. I don't know why we would want it to stay there.
Okay,
and then rent our ad, pay them after all of this. Yeah.
Yeah, I will follow up to make sure that we get the exact language.
Okay.
To be sure of the next steps. But I talked to the councilman before I left the office this evening, and that's the information that was provided to me.
Okay.
And it may be a more difficult feat to actually remove the actual billboard. I don't know if that legally can happen as easy as the content being taken down.
It'll be a series of steps.
Right.
And ultimately, I think the idea is that we want the billboard to be gone. But since we got to go through legal steps, it might just take a little more work. Not to say that that's going to stay there, Adele.
Right, exactly.
Alan, you had a comment?
I think that the way this is going is showing that there is enforcement and follow-up, and it's not just a threat.
Yeah,
They really mean business.
yeah.
I wanted to second Adele's concern, and I appreciate Pamela's response. We had discussions with the councilman within the last 6 weeks in which he was explicitly clear that the legal action he was initiating at that point was not solely about the content, but also the structure. So there's apparently new information that the legal side has advised separating the two, because we don't want the message, we don't want the advertising right there, but we also don't want a pointless structure.
So you're more concerned about the structure staying there even after the content is removed?
We want them both gone.
You want the billboard gone?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I
I
think
have a
ultimately that,
new and
would
an
be-
old out front generic contract that I will renew or will take a look at and see, but they're very generic and they don't really want it. You don't want an empty billboard up there, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Correct. I understand.
Okay.
So I'll follow up on that.
okay, Siggy, you got a comment?
Oh, just two things. It's actually Regency, not out front or.
Regency, okay.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know Regency, so I don't know their.
And I know
contract.
that for a specific reason. And number two, I thought there was a letter sent, sorry, it's my dog. I thought there was a letter sent in December from the councilman's
That
office
letter.
that
Yes.
was instructing, is that now superseded by all of this?
Well,
The
my
Department of Transportation,
understanding is that all of this is going through the legal process. So even though the letter and the request is in, there could be a reason why the proceedings are going the way that they're going. There was maybe a strategy. Not saying that it's not going to happen. I think it's just taking steps. So like I said, I will follow up to ask those specific questions.
right, so the Department of Transportation was instructed, but now it's going through some legal proceedings. Okay.
Yes.
Who owns the structure?
Regency.
Yeah, because it's on city property.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Doug, you got a comment?
Yeah, this structure is on city property. As I understand it, that the city purchased the property with the idea that they would be able to eliminate the billboard at some point. We're at the point where the contract has ended. The legal proceedings, as I understand them, are to essentially ask politely Regency to remove the structure. It would be my guess that what's happened here is Regency's got an advertisement up there essentially saying to people, if you're interested in renting this billboard, call us. That's potentially problematic if the city does not take action to stop them. Because you don't want a problem if you get into court at some point, and these can take, civil litigation can take a while. And the, Regency comes in and says, well, they've been basically letting us use the structure now for umpty months without complaining about it. So I would guess this is probably one of those legal steps where the city is stepping in and saying, no, you don't get to continue to use the structure for any purpose with or without our permission. We want it gone, even if it's inadvertent or, whatever. I would guess that's what's going on here, that the city's covering its legal rear end.
He said
Pamela,
we had
also add to your question list are they paying the rent still? Are they still paying rent to the city for that billboard?
I will ask, but I don't think that rent would be accepted because there is no current license agreement in place.
Right, well, that would be interesting to find out.
I
Yeah,
will
and-
ask the license
They're
agreement.
trespassing.
Yes.
Yeah, in addition, if they were to accept the rent, again, you just shoot your whole legal
That's right,
argument
that's right.
out of the water. So-
Okay,
Exactly.
guys, let me get Jason in. Jason, go ahead.
So the current request to Regency was to just remove the content. It was not, there was no wording in there about removing the structure. So was this from the outset assumed to be a multi-step process was one question.
Yeah,
And
correct. And that's what I'm gonna specifically address that, so I can get back and give you clarity on that point.
okay, just wondering if they know that we want the structure gone too. And also, do we feel that there is a danger that we could end up in some sort of standoff where they just refuse to take it down? The city does not want to spend the money or time or expense to take it down, and that thing ends up, perpetuating for a long time. And is there some way to, push them to want to take it down, such as, I don't know, turn off the power? They're maintaining the structure for no reason. I don't know.
So I'll explain again from the information that Councilman McOsker gave me. So if in fact there is non-compliance where Regency refuses to take down, or I should say, remove the content, I want to just clarify, then we, the city, will do that and then bill them. Now, the other question that was just asked, if in fact there is any language that has told them to remove the actual structure that's been erected. That is what I don't know, and I'm gonna investigate to get the specific language so that I can give that to your group, so that we're all on the same page.
That was in prior communications.
Thank
Right.
you. Elise,
Yes. Hi, Pamela. It's going to be nice working with you. Thanks for being here tonight. One thing I wanted to say to everybody is San Pedro Chamber, we sent an email to Regency. We've been putting phone calls into Regency. We've been telling them that this goes back to the Welcome Park proposal 22 years ago, that we've been on this path for 22 years to get that billboard down, and the community expects it to come down. And so I think we should all just do a letter writing email campaign, burn up the Regency phone lines. They answer the phone. I talked to a receptionist. I asked for a response. Brian Kennedy bought his brother out. He owns 100% now of Regency Outdoor Advertising. I'm going to get his address. I'm going to try to find him. But this community knows how to do it. We've done it before. And I think we just need to put the pressure on them. This has been going on for years. They knew this day was coming. And I don't understand what game they're playing, but I'm off my soapbox. I'm going to email them again tomorrow morning.
sounds like a great idea.
I think our neighborhood councils should get together. We should do a joint letter and get it into them.
Yes, definitely. I think the more pressure we put on as a group, the more effective we'll be. And thanks, Pamela, for the update on the information. And anything else you could share with us, we'll be glad to get more information. And
Question about a parking initiative.
yeah, somebody wanted to ask a question about that. We are in support of the initiative.
Okay.
Central Neighborhood Council took it up on the board meeting last night, and it's providing a CIS in support of it. Some of the other groups are going to take it back to their committees, and they will provide their own document from that. But I believe we're all in general support of it. Doug, you had a comment on that?
Yeah, well, I had raised it before for coastal San Pedro. I think it would be very helpful if someone from perhaps yourself or somebody from DOT who may be involved in such a study would come to the coastal San Pedro Planning Committee meeting in April and be prepared to answer questions about what potentially would be involved in such a parking study, what would be looked at, and our council may have additional recommendations or comments. So that was it. I am, unless Robin, the planning chair, wants to disagree. But I think it's very useful before any neighborhood council adopts resolutions for or against something to get as much information as possible.
That's,
Sounds good. Siggy, you had a comment?
I just wanted to let you know that Tay Kwan in the attendees has his hand up. Perhaps he has a question.
Okay, let me bring him up. Thank you. Hey, Kwan, you wanted to say something? You're able to speak.
I would like to make it,
We could hear you.
you can that?
Yes.
Hello. Thank you for having me. This is my third day, third time, meeting this council.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to, this is an idea, right next to my property, the public parking lot is $6.99. This is, very suspicious, activity, alcohol, consumption, in the parking lot. Homeless people coming to, sometimes, repeating, urinating on the wall. And then very exposure to little elementary schoolers, some dangerous see through the, very low, the parking lot. Last year, I was, submit, request to modification, the building ordinance, but I didn't, follow up. I'm still, learning a lot. So I'd like to maybe, propose to replace the parking lot or maybe make it high rise parking lot to build there if possible.
To increase security.
I went to LA housing building.
Yes.
They have a special the gate to enter, the get a ticket for the parking system there. Maybe this is big project, but I'm just asking to council to make proposal to.
Yeah, no, I think we all want to increase security in our parking areas. So
Yeah,
if-
they're on positive at 11th Street, right next to my property. The very dangerous activity always there.
okay, well, maybe we could contact our liaison with the LAPD. He was at our meeting last night for Central San Pedro Neighborhood Council and pass that information to them and let them know of issues that you just mentioned, so that they're aware of it. I'm sure they're aware of it, but maybe there's an effort that it's being made to provide better security for that area.
Javier, what address is that?
Address is 529 West 11th Street.
529 West 11th?
Yes.
Yes.
Their parking lot number is 699.
699.
Yes, there is very old, parking, the floor, but without gate, any people come to, laying down and drinking and, some suspicious activity there. We have to think about, many visitors come to their area sometimes. That's
good to know.
Good for, parking.
Well, thank you for bringing that information to us.
You're welcome.
Very good. Pamela, I think unless you have any further information, that does
No, those
a
were
lot
the
of
three.
updates.
Yeah, the homeless shelter, the sign, and then the parking initiative. Those were the three.
Okay. Great.
Okay, so feel free to share my contact information with the committee, the joint committee. And I'm here, so I'm learning as I go. Real fast introduction.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you
Okay.
for attending our meeting.
Okay, good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you. Very good. We're going to move on to our next item. And that's item number 5. So this was brought up in the Central San Pedro Neighborhood Council, and realized some of the businesses are outside of our neighborhood council, but they've been operating, and as far as we know, they have not reached out to any neighborhood council to create a line of communication to how they provide their business, how, you know, they're supposed to reach out to the neighborhood councils as a communication tool. Not that they're required to get an approval from us, but just as a outreach. So as far as I know, nobody has been out to any of the neighborhood councils from these businesses, and they're operating. This is kind of like their information based on where they are with their licenses. I went by the one on 17th and Gaffey, which is the 1705 Gaffey Street one, and it looks fully operational. So definitely they are in business. But what we would like to do is send out an invite for them to reach out to either neighborhood councils, whether the one they belong to the joint committee, or I mean, it would satisfy them if they came to the joint committee maybe and got everybody here together. So
Strikes me the joint committee would be very appropriate.
yeah, I think
Nobody gets the joke, do they?
I got
You're
it.
hilarious, Doug.
I was laughing on mute.
I was trying not to laugh, but so anyway, that was see you like that. At least
Just, I want to say full disclosure, both of those businesses are members of the San Pedro Chamber of Commerce, and they've been engaged, and I think they would actually be happy to talk about their business. Pirate Town is a woman-owned business and very interested in getting more involved in the community. They sell a variety of products, and I know We Roll Up, we were going to do a ribbon cutting, but he's been super busy trying to get the business off the ground, but that owner would like to engage as well. So I think it's a great idea to send him a letter and
sure,
have him
we
come
could
talk about
invite
the
him.
business.
Invite him to come to our joint meeting. Ellen.
Yeah, I was just concerned if I recognize the address, is that establishment, that was it 134 Gaffey, isn't that right across the street from the new housing facility for vets in recovery?
I believe you're correct. I think she's in the same center with the 7-Eleven, I believe.
Okay,
She's
so it's sort of kitty corner.
Mhm.
On the other side of the street. Interesting. Well, anyway, I what we'll do is we could take it for the committees, and you know, maybe we could ask the businesses to come to our meeting, and hopefully, you know, we could get some interface with them here. Let's see, anybody? No, I don't see anybody fit. Not necessarily that we need to create a motion, but other than maybe invite them to come in just in the future. And hopefully we get a response. And our next item,
James just put his hand up.
James,
Yeah, sorry for the late question, but a follow-up to Alan's information. Isn't there a certain amount of distance you need from a recovery place with a dispensary like this? Isn't there like a 500 yard or I mean, can they be right next to each other like that? That's my question, if anybody knows. Thank you.
that's interesting. I know there's a distance for like school facilities and parks, but I don't necessarily know the distance for a kind of like recovery center, which would probably fall in the same category, but I'll have to look into that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let me see.
Doug has a,
Yeah, I was just gonna say, might it be worthwhile for this group to also get somebody in from the Department of Cannabis Regulation from the city
Yeah, that
as part
that
of
would not
this?
be a bad idea. I think it would be good for us to know, like, I know there's a total number of licenses that are allowed in the city, and you know where we stand with the number of people applying, and to get a sense of where we are with that process. I'm gonna reach out to the I believe there's a cannabis department that handles those applications, and see if we could get some response. And following up on that, our next item, item 6, is an amendment to the cannabis ordinance to include properties owned by the Harbor Department that are operated as parks in the definition of sensitive uses. It says currently the ordinance includes public parks in this category, but the regulation only references those in the city of Los Angeles Department of Recreation and Parks website for public parks, aquatic parks, and recreation centers. Ward properties such as, but not limited to, the 22nd Street Park, North Gaffey Greenbelt, and Wilmington Waterfront Park do not appear on that list. So the suggestion was to include those areas as well as part of the parks in the ordinance. It was something that was brought up by Northwest, and I think it makes sense to include those areas, particularly since those areas are growing in the harbor area. So what I would suggest is that we take it back to our separate councils and committees, and create a support letter for that. Any discussions on that? Yes, Alan.
I would just support your proposal. It's a legal enterprise. And we'd rather have that than black market or illegal activities. My only concern is the location. I mean, for example, the Veterans Facility already has a liquor store across the street, and like most people, we can resist anything but temptation.
Yeah, that's a very tricky location that they picked, given some of the businesses that are near them, unfortunately. They're gonna have their work cut out.
Yeah.
So anyway, my suggestion is, again, take it back to your committees, look at it and make a motion on that document. I will be moving it to the Central Planning and Land Use Committee next month, so. Well, if there's no further discussion on that, we're gonna move on to the next item, which is updates on other items of interest to the committee. A couple of things that I was able to find out. I contacted the developer for the hotel on 6th and Pacific. And as I understand, they're going through their entitlements, they're going through their process. But as of right now, they don't have a start date yet. So it is moving forward. They just don't have a starting of construction in the calendar. So, but it is moving forward. So that's good to hear. It's just, I think they need to get their financing, they need to get their permits and all that in line. So, and I believe that was the only other set of news that I had. We've been tracking other projects, but again, there's no definitive information as to when some of the other projects are starting, or they've been sold and transferred. We know the one on Harbor and where the old grinder was, it's starting construction, which is great to hear. And that'll be moving forward soon. James.
Yes, I didn't know if I should wait for 7 or 8, but if this, I think, might be of interest to the committee, since the councilman has, and this committee, and has been focusing on the sign coming down at Gaffey and Gaffey there at the entrance there, at the end of the freeway there. I go by sometimes and I look, and for 100 yards on the K-rail at the freeway there between the exit and the entrance is just major tagging, and I think that's has a lot to do. That represents the entrance of San Pedro, and so I sent the councilman some pictures and a letter asking him if he could expedite it. But in the interim, I did a couple of Caltrans reports, and I don't know, it did come down within a week, 5 days, maybe a little less, the south end, but I put on the report both south and north. But it's really ridiculous for this to, I don't know how long it's been there. I don't go by there every day, but to see it, and that's why I took the pictures in shock, risked my life going over there, walking. And but when people sit there and they look and they go, wow, this is San Pedro. I mean, this is the major entrance. And so I was thinking perhaps maybe the city could, I don't know if it would be a motion or if this committee would be interested in it, because it is central, your jurisdiction, but perhaps the city would be able to do that as well with the 311 if the Caltrans does not respond fast enough. Sometimes this sits forever, and I don't think it should sit forever. I think it should be, regularly looked at and, immediately done, because it sends a real bad message about welcome to San Pedro. And so I don't know if Central would like to take that up, and I sent a councilman a deal about maybe, if he would support the motion, but I didn't bring a motion because it's central. So both south, sorry, Javier, the southbound has been removed, and then I had to send in another report. My initial report to Caltrans was south and northbound, and even on the backdrop of Jason's rubber bumpers on his backdrop there. Those, I said those had to be painted out as well, those rubber bumpers. They didn't do those. But you know, a pedestrian, we can walk across there and hit those with a black spray can. I do stuff like that, but I didn't do those, and neither did Caltrans. So I don't know if the city, if that would be a city thing, because those cars aren't going, you know, 70, 80 miles an hour right there by the first 100 yards of the K-rail that separates the north and south exit and entrance to San Pedro. And so maybe it would be a city item to do that. Okay, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
And James, definitely, we want to pick it up on Central and follow up on that, because as you say, that is the entry to our town, and not the image that we want to perceive. And it shouldn't take that long to take care of that kind of issue. So we will see what is the best way to handle that, and hopefully, you know, it becomes an ongoing solution that because I'm sure it's going to happen again. So
I'd just like to say, I hope when anybody sees it, please report, you know, call, because it's just horrible. It just shocked me when I saw it. And I really don't go by Gaffey that much, but when I did, I did a U-turn, got out, parked over on Summerlin, walked over, took the pictures and sent to the councilman, but it was dangerous doing that. So thank you.
Thank you, and be careful. Linda.
I just wanted to let you know that there is a private volunteer group that calls themselves the CPRs that have spent a great deal of time around the parks, entrance and exit parks. I don't think they've gotten over to where you're talking about, James, but they're cleaning up all the time in the park and painting. This group also painted on their own the small wall in front of the San Pedro Library. They sanded it down and painted it their own expense. And so we have some good people like you, James, out there doing their best and trying to get things looking better.
That's
Thank
right.
you.
Yeah, they did a great job at the library. I saw that.
You know, and the library didn't even come out to look. You know, it's interesting to me. They, you know, there's a security guard out there and never said anything, and nobody came out to look, and they were there a good part of the day. But oh well.
Well, it looked like good work, I guess. Nobody questioned it.
Yeah.
Thank you. But yeah, we will bring it up at Central and figure out a way to kind of provide a solution for that kind of problem. Very good. Moving on to number 8 on the agenda, which is public comment on items not on the agenda. Alan.
Let me take advantage of the opportunity, if I may. We just passed the beginning of spring, and we are today exactly a month away from Earth Day. And as some of you will recall, the White Point Nature Preserve and Nature Education Center has its primary annual fundraising events and community outreach for Earth Day. So on that Saturday, April 22nd at White Point, there's a volunteer day and several activities. And the next day, Sunday, the 23rd, at the Warner Grant Theater, we will once again be showing selections from the Wild and Scenic Film Festival, which I know a number of you have been to before and enjoyed. So I hope you will feel welcome to come to either or both of those events. I promise the weather will be beautiful. And we will also have an online auction of items donated by local artists and a variety of other sources, local restaurants, gift certificates, and things like that. So a whole range of ways to support White Point in the nature education program and the 3rd grade program we have in, I think, all but one of the public elementary schools in San Pedro. for environmental education that's keyed to the state science standards. So it's a good program. I think everybody who's familiar with it has agreed, and we'd love to have community support. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. That sounds like a wonderful cause. Adele?
Yes, I'm just curious. I know that our CD15 has been renamed the 1.5, which sounds like a NYPD station. But is that all of the councils have changed, and why? What caused this change? I'm curious.
You know, I've heard the term the 1.5, but I think they kind of want to make it inclusive of all the different neighborhoods. I don't know that others did the same thing.
Oh,
Yeah,
Our particular one is doing that.
it's just for messaging, Adele. It's still the 15th council district as far as City Hall is concerned.
oh, okay, all
But
right.
it's symbolic. One district with 5 communities within it, from Watts down to
Oh,
St.
I see. Oh, well, that's a good idea. Okay, I just was curious, that's all.
Yeah, it's meant to be inclusive and while recognizing the diversity of our local communities.
Mhm. Well, that's a good thing.
Well stated, Alan.
Mhm.
Thank you. Jason?
So it must be like grant month or something, because recently I've been informed of several grants that could be applied to businesses or nonprofits in our area. So I thought I'd just maybe let the committees know about it, and maybe we could share it out to our constituents. Can I share my screen?
Yeah. Hang on.
It's disabled right now.
All right, you should be able to in a second.
Okay.
I just made you co-host so you can share.
It's coming up here. The first is the Port of Los Angeles. You guys can see the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the Community Investment Grant Program. These are individual grants. These are for not-for-profits, tax exempt, 501c3s, and they are of substantial funding. Looking through the discussion of the grant, they're going to award up to 1.3 million in total funding, and grants over $100,000 if possible. These must be of something coastal or maritime in nature, which cover, as you can see from the list here, navigation of waters, maritime commerce, fishing, marine preservation, marine-related scientific study, water-related recreation, and visitor serving waterfront activities. So the port's got some money out there in their grants, and they have to be executed within 1 year of the award. So in case you are aware of any worthy organizations that might be able to apply for this, I think we should forward it to them or let them know about it.
That's excellent information.
So that's one. And then the other two are, one is a legacy business grant program, which is through the Los Angeles Conservancy. And they are for 25 or less full-time employees that have been in the community for 20 years or more. We might have some local businesses in San Pedro that qualify for that. And they're handing some money towards those businesses, as well as they might have been negatively impacted by pandemic and shutdown in there. So that's another one.
Hmm.
And Los Angeles Department of Economic Opportunity also has 3-phase grants for microbusiness, small and nonprofits, which vary in their amounts and various qualifications for the different levels of grants. And these are all came within 1 week of my awareness, and they're all must be applied for by the end of basically next month, all of them, if anyone is interested. So I'll share these links out and we can post them. And if anyone is aware of anyone who's interested, let's forward them on and maybe help our community's businesses or nonprofits.
Yeah, thank you. If you could forward me those, I'll make sure we put them on our website.
Okay. That's all I had.
Thank you. Doug?
Yeah, I was just wondering, are we going to rename this the 1-3 Planning Committee?
Should be.
You know, I was gonna let this go, but since it sort of came up with James Campo, I'm gonna just throw it out there for whatever it's worth. You know, the bridge that comes across from Summerlin to Gaffney. I think you're all aware of it. I'm not sure of the whole history of it, but I believe it was originally constructed with some commemorative purpose. I know that there are plaques and things that are gone. I would really love if somebody would take a look at it with an eye toward potentially restoring it, because it is kind of historic somehow. And that is, while it's not off the freeway, it carries all that traffic down Gaffney. And I've always, you know, I've been here 30 years, over 30 years, driven over that a million times, and I've looked at sort of the derelict nature of it and thought, what did this thing look like when it was new?
Hmm.
It's just a thought. I mean, just something I'm throwing out there.
Well, it's interesting. We might need to look into the history of that. Linda, you're muted.
Sorry. Again, the CPR group has been looking at that, taking pictures, concerned about the graffiti as well, and also the plaques. So I'll mention that possibly the neighborhood councils would want to be involved, or maybe have them talk to central land use sometime in the future about the situation, and perhaps how the neighborhood council could support efforts.
Definitely. Efforts to protect it. So sounds like a great idea. Linda, if you could maybe guide me to who contact on that group.
Yeah, well, the part of the leadership of that group were Mona and Leslie, owners of the Omelet and Waffle.
Oh, okay.
And they spend an enormous amount of time out on the road on their own, taking care of this stuff.
We thank them.
But I do regularly. they don't look for any applause.
Well deserved. So thank him for us. Very good. So we come to the end of the agenda. And as I mentioned, our next meeting will be an in-person meeting, as far as we know so far. It will happen at the Office of the Chamber of Commerce. Elise Swanson is allowing us to use the facilities, and we thank her for that. So we will be going to the in-person meetings, and look forward to seeing you guys. It'll be on April 26th, same time, different channel, but we'll be there. Thanks, everyone. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Good night.